Hi, I'm Karlin Borisenko. In early 2020, I was the knitting Democrat who accidentally went viral on the internet for going to a Trump rally and then left the party. I became the conservative darling, was on all the shows, traveled around the country, and then realized that conservatives were no better than Democrats. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that both political tribes are two sides of the same coin. But it wasn't all bad. On my journey, I became obsessed with understanding the woke ideology and the culture war. I broke the story of the city of Seattle doing segregated training with its employees.
How bad has this stuff become? The city of Seattle has now put out, I'm not kidding you, this is according to Dr. Karlin Borisenko, who's an organizational psychologist. The city of Seattle asked its white employees to voluntarily spend a day off in a training about their internalized racial superiority.
I broke the story that led to the first ever federal lawsuit against critical race theory in the schools. I broke the Coke Be Less White story, one of the biggest anti-woke stories of all time. It got over 30 million views. Coca-Cola's corporate headquarters even had to change their outgoing voicemail.
Throughout the past few days, you may have seen inaccurate reporting on the content of our recently launched diversity, equity, and inclusion training program.
I exposed the schools in Burlington, Vermont for grooming middle school children live on the internet. They called me an unwoke cult leader for that. And the Vermont Human Rights Commission slandered me publicly as being a hate channel. I even got called a hero in Breitbart for exposing that the Washington Post was writing a hit piece on Christopher Rufo. I have broken story after story after story about what's going on in the public schools, from Cambridge, Massachusetts, to autistic sex education, to the Department of Education in Michigan, literally training teachers all over the state how to groom children. I wrote a book called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. I host a podcast all about fighting back, and I'm downloading all of my knowledge to you on my Substack, karlin.substack.com. The world is a crazy place. We are literally surrounded by cults on all sides. On this show, we're going to do a deep dive into all aspects of the culture war, and I will show you the dark, dystopian underbellies on both sides. Here are the commitments I'll make to you. I will always tell you the truth. I will always bring you receipts. And if you stick with me, I promise you will see the world differently. Welcome to the cult. Please mount that like button for me and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Well, happy Memorial Day, everyone. Who is in for a little dystopia today? Because I have got 3 stories that we're going to cover that you're not going to hear anywhere else because they're mine. I broke all 3 of them last week. I am, to the very best of my knowledge, and I would welcome anyone to fact check me on any of this. To the very best of my knowledge, I am the only person to report on the 3 stories that we're going to be talking about today, because as you guys know, over on my Substack, Karlin, KARLYN.substack.com, which you should all be subscribed to. I don't know why you aren't already. I not only cover the most interesting news in the unwoke space, I not only break down the woke ideology for you in plain English so that you can understand what's going on in the world around you. I take you inside the psychology behind it. I not only do all those things, I also, on occasion, cover original stories that I am the only person covering on the internet, taking you inside the dark underbelly, especially on the woke left that exists. And we have got some crazy, crazy, crazy stories today. Last week, the end of last week was basically a whirlwind, and I covered 3 stories that I want to make sure you know about. The first one we're going to start off with is Tufts University in Massachusetts is currently, as we speak, running a study on non-binary 3-year-olds, in which they're also specifically focusing on autism, which I think is interesting, and we'll talk about that. But as I was researching this story of the Tufts study of non-binary 3-year-olds, I came across something even more crazy. They're building a groomer middle school. Who is they, you ask? Far left trans activists. And do you know how this is related to the story of Tufts University studying non-binary 3-year-olds? Well, the person running the study on the non-binary 3-year-olds at Tufts University is advising the Groomer Middle School that they're building in New York exclusively for trans and non-binary children. Oh, who's this? Who's this? Let me know who you are, little troll. Maybe we'll have some fun with you today. We're gonna have some fun with the trolls today. I'm gonna tell you that because we'll get to that in a second. So we're gonna cover the Tufts study on non-binary 3-year-olds. We are gonna cover the Groomer Middle School exclusively for trans and non-binary kids, and then just to round us off. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one actually covering this. So there are a lot of angles on the whole target funding GLSEN thing, but I haven't seen anyone talk about this. There is a webinar on GLSEN's website with high school seniors in which those high school seniors are basically talking about how GLSEN, the organization that Target is currently funding, is training these high school seniors and presumably younger to be the best trans activists they can be. You see how this works is the kids that are feeling really awkward in school, they go to oh, we'll deal with that little troll in a second. The kids that are feeling really awkward in high school, they go to this thing called the Gender and Sexuality Alliance, and they go to make friends. They want new friends. They want friends. And then GLSEN, who is funding the Gender and Sexuality Alliances, takes advantage of that and trains them to be the best queer activists that they can be. And I have proof of all of this. Let's see. What is this person complaining about? Enlisted force peons have been blowing the whistle on this sick ship for decades and have been murdered for blowing the whistle. Vanessa Jill, I have no idea who Vanessa is, a hero. You're just another money-grubbing journo. And yet you're spending your time here, little troll, whining and complaining and whining and complaining. Does anyone even know who Vanessa is? Is this Vanessa? Is this Vanessa's like sock account where Vanessa doesn't feel like she's getting enough attention and so she has to come and complain on someone else's live stream? You know, honey, you know, girl, the woman who is too cowardly to use her own name and photo on the internet. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. You don't have to be here right now. No one is forcing you to be here. No one is forcing you to be here. Wow, this person is like literally insane. What does this have to do with anything I'm talking about? Are you just like a lunatic that is coming off these? You waited 5 whole minutes to be subscribed to my channel so you could bring this unhinged lunacy that has nothing to do with. No one knows who Vanessa is. But guys, you know, stuff like this is par for the course. It really is. And this is actually where I want to start today. Don't worry. We're going to go ahead and block this person because she obviously has absolutely nothing to offer us. But this is actually where I want to start because we are going to go through the 3 original stories that I broke for you last week in my spare time when I was flitting about with not a care in the world. But I want to start with something else. I want to start with Christina Buttons. Because, you know, nonsense trolls and grifter shills is just what I have to deal with on the internet every day. And I want to show you this because does everyone remember who Christina Buttons is? Does anyone remember? Christina Buttons a few months ago is a woman that made here you can remember, you guys remember Christina Buttons. We're not going to watch this video or anything. Hang on, let me turn the volume down on that. Ah, why is it pink? There it is. So you can see Christina Buttons there. Christina Buttons used to be a reporter for the Daily Wire. Christina Buttons actually started her career at FAIR, the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism. And so when I reported that FAIR was an absurdly toxic and corrupt organization back in 2021, I was the very first person to report on that. All of my reporting has since been proven correct. The CEO of FAIR that made it such a toxic, corrupt organization was forced out of his role and forced to resign. I have been completely vindicated on that one. But back when I reported on it, Christina Buttons worked at FAIR, and Christina Buttons shit-talked me all over the internet because she was really upset that I was exposing her organization. Well, after Christina Buttons left FAIR, she crawled back to me in my DMs and she said, Carlin, I'm sorry because you were right. And I said, I know I was right, Christina. Thank you for acknowledging that. And then Christina Buttons went and got herself hired by the Daily Wire to cover gender ideology and trans medicalization and all that. Good for her, I guess. Wouldn't be the career move that I would make. I thought it was a mistake, but apparently she did not think it was a mistake. And so she went to work for the Daily Wire and then quit the Daily Wire after CPAC. So do you guys remember Michael Knowles made this big show of it at CPAC where Michael Knowles was like, we need to eradicate gender ideology from the public life. And Christina Buttons was like, I don't think no, Michael Knowles didn't even say that. Michael Knowles says, we need to eradicate transgenderism from the public sphere, something like that. And then he was misquoted everywhere and he made a big stink out of it, even though he knew exactly what he was doing. And so Christina Buttons took issue with the fact that Michael Knowles made this big stink at CPAC. And she said, Michael Knowles, Daily Wire, I simply cannot work at an organization like this because I am a liberal and I don't think we should be eradicating transgenderism. And Christina Buttons made this big show of stomping off in a huff, quitting the Daily Wire, did this big public declaration announcing her departure so that she could generate subscriptions for her Substack. And her Substack, which you can find and see for yourself at buttonslives.news, was supposed to be the place that we were going to go to for news about gender ideology and medicalization from then on, because Christina Buttons was this big shot reporter. She had all of these influencers behind her. Go subscribe to Christina Buttons Substack. Go sign up. Go give Christina Buttons money. Christina Buttons will save us all. And I was just like, all right, whatever. I don't really care. But when she left, I did a video, and I'll just show you a screenshot of that video, because Christina Buttons didn't leave the Daily Wire because of Michael Knowles' CPAC speech. In fact, Cassandra McDonald, I always think of her as Cassandra Fairbanks. Cassandra McDonald called Christina Buttons out publicly and said, dude, you were going to leave the Daily Wire anyway. You were going to leave them before. You just are making a big stink of it in order to get clout and gain subscriptions for your Substack. And so this was all documented. I documented it at the time. Christina Buttons left. She started this Substack. I didn't really think that much about it because I hadn't heard about Christina Buttons at all. Well, something interesting happened the other day, in that I was alerted to the fact that Christina Buttons was shit-talking me on Twitter. And because I want to deal with this because well, A, if you're going to shit-talk me on Twitter, you're going to deal with the consequences of shit-talking me on Twitter. But B, I also really want people to see the difference between people who claim to be fighting the woke left, who claim to be doing independent journalism, who claim to be covering original stories, and the people who actually do it. So we're going to start off with Christina Buttons as a great example of someone who claims to be a journalist, but really all she does is shit talk people on Twitter. So the other day, Christina Buttons interacting, of course, with the psycho Carrie Smith. She was responding to a tweet about me, and I don't have it screenshotted because I don't want to. Excuse me. Hang on. Let me get some water. Sorry about that, guys. So Christina Buttons says, Carlin is one of the most mentally unstable people I have ever had the misfortune of interacting with. I have said 2 sentences to Christina Buttons in my entire life. I don't say this lightly. Carlin is a legitimate psychopath who belongs in an insane asylum. And then Carrie says, yes, Christina, I can confirm that Carlin belongs in an insane asylum. And guys, if you don't know who Carrie Smith is, don't worry about it. But if you want to find out who Carrie Smith is, you can head over to survivingcarriesmith.substack.com. Carrie Smith is obsessed with me and has been obsessed with me for years. And well, she has wreaked havoc. And then Christina Button says, anyone who hasn't seen through this menace in action can confirm, but won't say anything because they don't want to become her next target. But I am all out of fucks to give. So Christina Buttons is very stunning and brave in calling me a menace, in saying I need to be committed to an insane asylum, in calling me a psychopath, in saying that everyone is just afraid to say so. Well, Christina, let's just do a little check-in on you. Because remember, you were the reporter that was going to save us all, right? So I went and checked out Christina Button's Substack, which, by the way, Christina Buttons has over 1,000 paid subscribers to her Substack that she got by making a big stink of quitting the Daily Wire so that she could go be the best independent journalist she could be. I went and I checked out Christina Button's Substack and I was like, what is Christina Buttons doing? Like, really? Because it kind of seems to me that since she left the Daily Wire, she produced this opinion piece. She produced another opinion piece. She sent out a Gender Medicine Monthly newsletter, which is a list of links. She did another opinion piece. She did an updated introduction to that opinion piece, and she sent out another newsletter. Is Christina Buttons actually doing journalism? Is Christina Buttons doing anything? And so I tweeted, has anyone noticed that Christina Buttons has basically stopped doing original journalism while taking people's money to do original journalism, and instead she spends her days shit-talking people on Twitter who are doing what she's not doing? Funny how that works. It's almost like I had receipts. And then what happened is Carrie Smith's cancel horde. I had to change windows because I got to go into an incognito window. And then Carrie Smith's cancel horde, led by there she is, the psycho Tina. She screenshotted this, of course, leaving out the evidence that Christina Buttons has done nothing. And she said, Carlin is just projecting. Carlin is projecting the fact that she does no journalism onto Christina Buttons. Well, we're going to see about that today because we're going to go through 3 pieces that I've written in the last week. I have done more independent journalism in the last week than Christina Buttons has done since she made a big to-do about leaving the Daily Wire. And of course, she spun up all of these people. She's like, this person here, Carlin, instead of doing quality work that would stand on its own merit, she builds herself up by beating other people down. If she didn't have other people to defame, berate, and belittle, she'd have nothing. Carlin is a fraud. This is all these people spend doing all day. So I did the next logical thing, and I said, you know what? I'm going to see if Christina Buttons has any stories behind the paywall of her Substack that would make it worth subscribing to. And so I went and subscribed to Christina Buttons' Substack, and I gave her $5. And so I went and pulled up every single story that Christina Buttons has done since she left the Daily Wire. You can see the archive here again. And so again, we've got this opinion. Oh, no, let's start back over here. So we've got an opinion piece, how autistic traits can be mistaken for gender dysphoria. Okay, that actually sounds like an important information that people need to know, so I'm not upset about this. Good job, Christina. A very long essay, but basically an opinion piece. No breaking news, no independent journalism, but not bad information. And then we've got this opinion piece that she wrote, Stop Conflating Gender Ideology with Gender Dysphoria. Again, not necessarily bad. I'm not saying there's anything wrong about this, but it's a big, long essay. It's not breaking news or anything. And then we have the Gender Ideology newsletter that you can only get if you pay Christina Buttons to subscribe to it. And basically, this is a list of links. She is summarizing other people's journalism, and that's all it is. Okay, I mean, interesting, but again, can't we all go find lists of links? I don't know. And then she's got another essay, Debunked the Transgender Brain Sex Argument. No breaking news here. This is all just Christina Button's opinion. And again, nothing wrong with that, but let's just be honest about what it is. And then she wrote a new introduction. So she had to post an update about that didn't really say anything. And then the very last thing that Christina Buttons has posted on her Substack with over 1,000 paid subscribers that are just waiting for Christina Buttons to do independent journalism is another newsletter, another list of links. In this one, Christina showed that she sent a single email to someone asking them a question. So I guess that's journalism. It doesn't really seem like they've answered the question yet, but Christina's showing you she's doing journalism. She posted an email. And then it's just another list of links and summaries of what those links say, which again, I guess nothing wrong with that, but it's not independent journalism at all. And that's all that's on Christina Button's Substack. Since she made the big stink of leaving the Daily Wire a couple months ago, that's all that's on her Substack. And so after I confirmed that, and I just want to be clear about this, guys, compiling a list of links is not journalism, okay? But then Christina Button sussed out that I was subscribed to her Substack for $5, and she very kindly canceled my subscription. So I woke up this morning and I had this email saying, your subscription for Buttons Lives has ended. Why has my subscription ended? Because Christina Buttons doesn't want me revealing that Christina Buttons is doing no independent journalism at all. But unfortunately for Christina Buttons, I had already figured that out and had already had the evidence. And so, guys, that is who is shit-talking me on Twitter today. The independent journalist that will save us all from gender ideology, but is doing, in fact, no independent journalism and has not been doing independent journalism for a while and is now canceling people's subscription to cover up for the fact that she's doing no independent journalism. You're welcome, Christina. Can't wait to see your next independent journalism. You're so amazing, Christina. You're going to save us all. Sincerely, the psycho from the insane asylum. I mean, it was only $5. So I'm not too upset about it. So do you guys want to see what real independent journalism looks like? Do you want to see what this really looks like? Well, I've got 3 stories for you that I've covered in the last week over on my Substack, which again, I hope you will all subscribe to today. Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. One of the only places where you will actually get independent journalism about what is going on the woke left, the receipts that you will not get anywhere else. I present you the receipts. You decide what you think about it. I don't think it's my job to tell you what to think, but I will show you what's going on, and then you can make up your own mind. If you want to support the work I'm doing, again, the real independent journalist, whether I like it or not, you can support what I'm doing with a subscription for $5 a month, $50 a year. I do have a fundraising drive that I'm doing right now. Well, not really a fundraising drive, more of like a crowdfunding thing, because I want to cover a couple events in person coming up later this year. And I want to bring other people on the team with me. So we're going to need hotel rooms. We're going to need plane tickets. We're going to need to buy like equipment and stuff like that. We've got some really, really cool events that we want to cover to bring you inside of, to show you exactly what's going on the woke left. We want to show you what they're training people on. We want to show you what's going on the woke left before it gets into the schools. And I can't do that without your help. If you want to help me out, head over to carlyn.substack.com. Get a subscription. I am looking for 200 new monthly or annual supporters between now and the end of June. And guess what, guys? We're already like over 25% of the way there. So you guys have really been showing up. I'm really happy, to be honest. I wasn't sure people were actually going to show up for this, but I'm really happy. And this is going to help me to be able to fund the conferences and events that we want to go to infiltrate, to create that content for you, because ain't no one else going to do it. And we just all need to wrap our heads around that. I've spent the last week processing and wrapping my head around the fact that literally no one else is going to do this stuff, because conservative media doesn't understand why this is important at all. And so I'll do it. No big deal. I'll do it. Autumn, I am never making you a moderator of my channel. That is never going to happen. You need to just dispense with that idea right now. That is not going to happen. Socialists will never be moderators on my channel. But let's dig into it, guys. The first story we're going to cover today, and please mount that like button for me. We do not smash the like button on this channel. We mount the like button on this channel. And mounting the like button lets people know to come and join us on the stream. The first story we're going to cover today is Tufts is looking to study non-binary 3-year-olds. I didn't even know that you could be non-binary at 3 years old. I wasn't even aware that at 3 years old, kids were aware of, what gender was. How can they be opting out of a gender at 3 years old? It kind of sounds like their parents have Munchausen's by proxy to me, but maybe I could be wrong. I guess we'll see. So I want to do a big shout out. I covered this story because Ramona is a badass teacher from Rhode Island. She's part of that whole Rhode Island crew. There's a whole bunch of women in Rhode Island who are fighting back against this stuff. I don't know why they ended up in Rhode Island of all places, but they did. Ramona is a teacher who has been running her mouth about this stuff going on in the area for a while now. Everyone should follow Ramona. I highly recommend it. But Ramona posted on Twitter that Tufts University was running a study looking for gender diverse children and their parents. Who are we looking for? Children ages 3 through 8 who identify as neither completely a boy or girl, both a boy or girl, changing gender every day and or a unique gender, two-spirit, a third gender, and one of their parents in the northeastern United States. So I mean, this is like getting really complicated already. My God, like all of the different options for kids between the ages of like 3 and 8 and their gender identities and all that good stuff. Hang on, guys. I just gotta get another window up because we're gonna have to go behind the paywall on this one, and I forgot about that. So if your child qualifies for this study, what's gonna happen is that they're going to go to Tufts University. Tufts University. It's like a big time school in Massachusetts. Not like easy to get into Tufts, all right? So if your child qualifies for the study, they are going to have to go for a 40-minute in-person interview where they will have books read to them about gender. So they will read them this book. Who Are You? A Kid's Guide to Gender Identity, to the 3-year-olds. And then Avocado asks, what am I? Now, a book about an avocado might not seem like it's about gender ideology, but this is a book about the avocado going on a journey to figure out if the avocado is a boy or if the avocado is a girl. Excuse me. If the avocado is a fruit or if the avocado is a vegetable. Do you guys see the parallel there? Because really, an avocado could be both a fruit or vegetable. It could be neither a fruit or vegetable. Who's to say what an avocado is? And so that's exactly the same thing. They're reading these books to kids to get them to question, am I really a boy or am I really a girl at 3 years old? The researchers tell the parents not to read the books to the kid beforehand because they want to see their authentic interactions. And then they will ask both the parent and the child questions about their gender. And I went through and I took screenshots of their entire survey instrument that you can find on the Substack. We'll do a quick trip through it, but you can get access on the Substack if you're a paying subscriber. So here's what the questionnaire said. Your child's interview will involve questions about their gender and experiences throughout the reading of 2 books and 1 drawing activity. Your child will read with the interviewer or be read, Who Are You? A Kid's Guide to Gender Identity, and Avocado asks, What am I? Your child will be asked to draw a picture of a time that they had fun with friends. Both you and your child will be asked questions related to your child's gender identity and experiences that have been shaped by their gender. Please do not read the book to your child beforehand if you have not before, as we are hoping to see their authentic reactions. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting about this is the demographic questionnaire that the parents have to fill out specifically asks about autism. Now, Can someone remind me who is still the only person on the internet that I know of to report on autistic sex education and how they're indoctrinating the autistic children into gender ideology in the schools based on the keynote at the National Sex Ed Conference that conservative media refuses to report on? I am. I am. I reported on that back in January. I reported on that. I'm the only one to report on that. You can find the story on the Substack. That would be me. So I bring that up because I find it a little suspicious that the Tufts University study of the non-binary 3-year-olds is specifically asking about autism. And this is from the questionnaire. Does your participating child have autism spectrum disorder, including Asperger's? Yes, they're diagnosed. Yes, but they have not been diagnosed, so they're taking self-diagnosis of autism now. Or no. So this could be one of two things. They could be studying if autistic children are more likely to be gender fluid, gender non-binary, or susceptible to gender ideology. Or perhaps more nefariously, and maybe I'm becoming a conspiracy theorist here, they could also be trying to reverse engineer how to indoctrinate autistic children. So let me explain how this works. If Tufts University is studying gender fluid, non-binary, genderqueer children ages 3 to 8 about how their gender identity developed, and they're specifically asking in the study, do those children have autism? They can then use the results of that study to reverse engineer how to indoctrinate children into gender ideology starting at 3 years old. Now, that might not be the intent, and I don't want to assign intent at this point because I don't know if that is their intent. I don't know. But can the information that they are seeking in this study be used to reverse engineer how to indoctrinate children into gender ideology? Yes, it can. Yes, it can. It can unequivocally be used to figure out if this is how children think that they are non-binary, if this is the process that the children have come to, and those children have Asperger's because we know who are vulnerable children and who are like the neurologically like normally functioning children, and then the neurologically divergent. If we know the difference between how neurodivergent kids come to believe they're genderqueer and how normally functioning kids come to believe they're genderqueer, you've just given them the roadmap to reverse engineering this entire thing. Do people understand how that works? If you know how to get from point A to point B, then you can also go from point B to point A. So I'm not suggesting that's the intent. I'm simply saying they can absolutely use it for that purpose. So this is just a hunch, but would it surprise anyone if they were doing this research to reverse engineer how to socially transition children starting at the age of 3 with a specific focus on autistic children? And I also wonder, how the holy hell did Tufts University get IRB approval for this? Because you might not know this if you've never done research in higher education before, but I had to do this. When I did my dissertation on workplace bullying and the targets of workplace bullying, I had to go through something called the Institutional Review Board. And basically, what the Institutional Review Board is anytime that you have human subjects that you're studying, you have to go through a panel called the IRB, which exists at every university in the known universe. And they have to basically sign off on your study to say, yes, your study is safe for participants. How in the ever loving hell did Tufts University's Institutional Review Board sign off on a study of non-binary 3-year-olds with autism. That doesn't seem ethical to me. The center that is doing the study is called the Abby and Anna Sochi Lab and is located in the Department of Child Study and Human Development, and they are conducting research on gender development. You can see here, this is the lab that is conducting the research at Tufts University. Let's see. This lab focuses on the role of sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, which is what SOGIE, SOGIE stands for, in human development, health, rights, and to enhance the lives of children, youth, and families. From a developmental perspective, we are particularly interested in the socio-emotional development of children. We have studied gender caregiver attachment relationships in the context of multiple caregivers. We have explored, check out this acronym, Two-Spirit, I'm pretty sure P stands for poly, LGBTQIA plus individuals, parenting aspirations, as well as attitudes towards same-gender parenting. We are currently conducting research on gender development with a special emphasis on trans children. And then the article goes into the supporter only mode, but I wanted to show you guys one more thing. And this is going to go behind the scenes. This is the type of stuff you'll get access to when you become a subscriber on the Substack, because a lot of my articles do have paywalls. Let me show you what comes after that. I want to introduce you to the guy that's doing the study. I'm not going to show you everything behind the paywall. I just want you to see the guy doing the study, because he's going to become important for our next story. So the director of the lab is a brown, non-binary, flamboyant immigrant with they, L pronouns, and he's quite the character. This is Fair. Fernando. Fair. A brown, non-binary, flamboyant Mexican immigrant approaches their research, because they pronouns, through the lens of reflexivity, with an understanding that their own experience and position in the world have shaped the focus of their work. Fernando is an assistant professor at Tufts and says they specialize in working with two-spirit, poly, LGBTQIA plus individuals and, wait for it, non-traditional family structures. What do you think of when you think of non-traditional family structures? Let me know in the chat. And also studies children raised outside of traditional family structures. Why is Tufts interested in studying non-binary autistic 3-year-olds, potentially associating that with raising them outside of traditional family structures? Abolish the family! Yes! Mom of cats. Exactly right. Because one of the goals of the woke left, and I've got a clip coming to the channel within the next couple days, is absolutely and completely to abolish the biological family. They recently gave a presentation about how gender socialization from ages 0 to 3, which says the following. We'll actually get into that in the next slide. Their Instagram is quite something. They define check this out. So Fernando defines non-binary as shorthand to let others know that their systems, this word, creates multiple challenges and barriers for people like me and not like me every day. And then Fernando, of course, and this is from his Instagram, Fernando doesn't like capitalism. Is anyone surprised that Fernando doesn't like capitalism? I'm not personally surprised that Fernando doesn't like capitalism, but maybe that's just me. Fernando also supports students who are doing research into polyamorous parenting. That's interesting. And by the way, Tufts University is located in the town in Massachusetts, Somerville, that just legalized polyamorous marriage. I'm sure the two are completely unrelated. Completely and totally unrelated. And the last thing I'll show you is Fernando tweeted just the other day. Check this out. Understanding heterosexism, cissexism, and misogyny as colonial projects intent on murdering, removing, and marginalizing Native bodies and nations is a necessary component in decolonizing queer and trans studies. I bet Fernando is a ton of fun at parties, don't you think? Now, the reason that I bring Fernando up is because Fernando is how I became interested in the next story that we're going to cover. Because Fernando is one of the people that is advising the groomer middle school that is being created specifically for trans and non-binary kids. This is real. This is happening right now. They are going to start after-school programs in the fall. They are currently fundraising to open a middle school in New York for trans and non-binary kids ages 9 to 15. They're definitely not grooming kids, though. Definitely not. Absolutely would never, ever, ever, ever happen. Guys, mount the like button for me, not because you appreciate the subject matter, but that you appreciate the fact that I'm showing it to you. Okay? Because again, I am the only person that I know of, and I looked. I'm the only person that's reported on this. None of your conservative media are reporting on it. None of your influencers are reporting on it. No one else is showing you this content but me. And that's what you get when you subscribe to my Substack. Maybe conservative media will get around to reporting on it if they feel like it. Maybe your influencers will get around to reporting on it if they feel like it. But just in case, I've already done the work for you, and you can always be ahead of the curve when you are paying attention to the stuff I'm posting on my Substack, because we are about 2 years ahead of where your influencers are with stuff like this. Let's read. I recently published this article about Tufts University looking to study non-binary 3-year-olds. The study is currently being conducted by the Abby and Anna Sochi lab at Tufts. And it's not the only thing they're studying. How does a trans... Actually, let me just show you the image. So if you go to their website and you go under current studies, the number one project is this: community-based participatory research towards transing educational spaces. Tufts University is specifically studying how you trans educational spaces. How does a trans and social justice-centered educational space intentionally co-constructed by trans educators, trans students, trans professional researchers, and families touched by transness impact the outcomes for trans middle school students? Well, I saw this, and my first question was, where are they getting a trans middle school? Which I think is like if you're going to study how to trans middle school spaces, you're going to actually need a trans middle school. And the answer is they are building the trans middle school. They are actually building it right now. It's called Transformative Schools, and you can actually see their website. I've got it linked right to it. This is a real thing. Look, trans youth deserve trans schools. You guys can go and see it for yourself. Everything I'm showing you is off of this website. Transformative Schools is an initiative to build a middle school exclusively for trans and non-binary children. A middle school. They're launching an after-school program this coming fall, 2023, and are fundraising to launch a full middle school. We are Transformative Schools, a progressive education community centering trans joy and social justice. Our mission is to support trans futures by uplifting the lives of trans children, trans educators, and families touched by transness. In fall of 2023 to 2024, TFS will launch a free after-school program. They're calling it After School, open to all, but centers trans, queer, non-binary, and gender expansive middle school students. Our dream is to found a middle school that embodies the work of liberation, ding, 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 through rigorous academics, joyful connections, identity explorations, and progressive practice. Let's see, that's just, they believe in a middle school that teaches transformational resistance, empowering students to challenge racist, ableist, transphobic, transmisogynistic, and other white supremacist systems. Their goal is to found a middle school that embodies the work of liberation. And you can see there, I'm taking all of this from their website, guys. All of this is from their website. Their programming will focus on social justice by providing the tools that educators and students need to work towards systemic change. It's almost like they're training the next generation of radical trans queer activists. They will do this using progressive pedagogies. What might they mean by progressive pedagogies? What might they mean by progressive pedagogy? That will empower learning communities to challenge systems of oppression by providing community members with the academic and social emotional tools to read and write power. What does it mean to read and write power? They will also provide professional development training to teachers in New York City and nationally. Oh, good, because what we really want is for the trans middle school to be training teachers around New York City and around the country how to bring their trans education into, normal public schools. Workshops will include Trans 101, sophisticated discussions of gender modality, identity, and expression describe gender and their intersections with other marginalization, such as race and disability. Is that clear to everyone? The process of imagining trans-liberated schools. The implementation of our interdisciplinary curricula. I just thought of something. I posted a clip on Twitter earlier today about trans liberation. Maybe in this context, let's just take a second to watch the clip I posted on Twitter. It's less than a minute long. Does everyone know what trans liberation means? Does anyone know what trans liberation means? If you were watching Socialism Saturday this week, you know what trans liberation means. Let's hear from the trans Marxist activists themselves what trans liberation actually means. Oh, what? Sophie, what was that? Sophie is our favorite abolish the family trans Marxist activist. Sophie, what was that? Did you guys couldn't hear that? Oh, sorry. My B. You guys really couldn't hear it. Okay, we'll try again. Take 2. Again, what does it mean to provide a trans liberatory experience to middle school students in the trans school that they are building? What does trans liberation mean?
Do transgender Marxists abolish the family I suppose this is not a question I feel like
Thank you,
posing
Sophie.
in separation from the question of abolishing capitalism.
Thank
Your book's blurb is very clear, that in order to achieve transgender liberation, abolishing capitalism is the sine qua non. These things cannot happen separate from one another. Do you transgender mark?
Wait, what was that, Sophie? What was that? What was that? You can't achieve trans liberation without abolishing capitalism. Sophie, can you just repeat that again for us, Sophie?
Blurb is very clear, that in order to achieve transgender liberation, abolishing capitalism is the sine qua non. These things cannot happen separate from one another.
So you cannot achieve trans liberation until we abolish capitalism, and this trans school that is targeting 9 to 15-year-old middle school children is going to do workshops with teachers throughout New York City and throughout the whole rest of the country about the process of imagining trans liberated schools. And you can see that right here. It's in the professional development section on their website. Why would they be teaching teachers something that's going to require the abolition of capitalism in order to be able to achieve? That just seems a little weird to me. Let's keep going. The after school program is going to launch in partnership with the Brooklyn Community Pride Center to address the unmet needs of trans, queer, non-binary, and gender expansive middle school students. It will target students ages 9 to 15 and be facilitated by trans, non-binary, and queer educators. And they're definitely not grooming children. Definitely not. They would never do such a thing. It would never, ever, ever happen. And you can see here, again, youth ages 9 to 15, in-person programming. They're also doing Zoom programming. Classes will include yoga, animation, queer history, activism. They're going to have a whole class in activism for the trans and non-binary 9 to 15-year-olds. Zines. Zines are what socialists use when they're creating propaganda. That's what they call them. They're magazines, they're comic books. They call them zines. They will also learn about queer media and transing schools. What does it mean to trans a school? Julie says, I don't see math or writing there. I don't see math or writing either, Julie. Engineering, theater. I guess you have to do math to do engineering, I guess. Theater, yoga, animation, creative writing. So there is some writing. We don't know exactly what. Electronic music. Painting and poetry, activism, queer history, graffiti and zines, coding and game design, queer media, Dungeons, Dragons, Magic, and tabletop games, and transing school. They will be working in collaboration with Fernando, who is an assistant professor at Tufts. We met Fernando earlier. Fernando says they specialize in working with two-spirit, poly, LGBTQIA+ individuals and non-traditional families, and also studies children raised outside the traditional family structure. There's Fernando. And you can see here, this is from their website, in collaboration with Fernando. And the other thing, too, is the other thing this middle school is doing is they're working with an association called the Youth Participatory Action Research. Does anyone remember where we've seen YPAR before? So people who've been on my channel for a while, you might recognize this. Youth Participatory Action Research stands for YPAR. YPAR is a program that is in a lot of schools to introduce children to the idea of activism. Yes, Reagan, we've seen it in the Burlington schools. Exactly. Reagan gets the gold star for the day. Reagan, queen of the chat, for a great answer. Well done, Reagan. YPAR was also in the Burlington, Vermont school district, the most woke school district in America that we outed last year for grooming children live on the internet. Transformative Schools was founded by Elena Daniels, pronouns they, she. And you can see Elena's picture there. Elena is a white, queer, neurodivergent, non-binary trans woman and loves being both a mirror and window for adolescents as they figure out their identities and find their voices in the world. You will be thrilled to know that Elena is a very experienced teacher. They have taught middle and high school activism, sex education, robotics, engineering, algebra, and queer media in New York City schools for over 10 years, including at the Manhattan County School, I think that should be, country school, county school, whatever. The Manhattan Country School, Bank Street School for Children, Brooklyn Friends, and the Johns Hopkins Center for Talented Youth. Elena passionately believes that science and math can be incredibly powerful tools to educate for liberation. That's Elena. Another co-founder is Ro, pronouns they, L. Ro is a non-binary Afro-Caribbean Dominican. You'll be thrilled to know that for the last 8 years, Ro has taught a variety of learners from 1st through 6th grade in public, charter, and private schools. Experienced teachers founding this school. And lastly, the last founder and CEO of the enterprise is named Jay Florence, pronouns they, them. Jay is a non-binary trans white neurodivergent educator who has taught math in progressive K-12 schools for over a decade. Jay's daily work makes space for trans LGBTQ youth teachers to co-create educational spaces. And yes, they are putting the T at the beginning now. It's no longer LGBTQ, it's now TLGBQ. Read into that what you will. Rottweiler, thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. I think it'll collapse once they see they are a tiny sector of the population. No. And because it'll cannibalize itself. Same reasoning behind activists complaining about neutral bathrooms given to them. No. I'm sorry. Thank you for the super chat, but no, you're incorrect. There are now about 40% of the kids in school right now are identifying as queer, non-binary, gender non-conforming, trans. They might not be fully trans. They're not all medically transitioning or anything. But a significant between 30 to 40% of students in school are identifying as queer, non-binary, gender non-conforming, gender fluid, gender queer, trans, not cisgender. They're creating more and more and more of these kids every single day because they're starting the indoctrination when they're 4 years old now. So anyone who says, and I'm sorry, I think that you have probably been misled by people who have lied to you. Anyone who says this is something that's going to go away, this is something that's just going to implode on its own, that's not accurate. I'm sorry. It's just not accurate. If you guys are going to ignore this problem and think that it's going to go away, you're going to be extremely disappointed. Let's dig into some of the social media posts the school has made, shall we? And these are all from their Instagram page. You can go look them up on Instagram and see for yourself. First of all, they believe in middle school, and they also believe in transition. Seems a little weird for a middle school to believe in transition, but I guess maybe not, but they're doing a wordplay there. I don't know, seems a little bit weird to me. They're pretty clear the goal is systemic societal change through education, just like the Communist Manifesto called for. So here's another post. Transformative Schools advocates for systemic societal change through education. That is quite literally the wording from the Communist Manifesto. Go look up the Communist Manifesto if you don't believe me. Children's innate tendency to question the status quo, as well as their ability to imagine an ideal world without limits, makes educational spaces that provide them with the skills for collective organizing invaluable resources as we move together towards more liberated states. It's almost as if they're training the next generation of radical trans activists in middle school. They're going to teach middle schoolers about transformational resistance. We believe a middle school that teaches transformative resistance will intervene at a critical inflection point, supporting the pursuit of joy and purpose for our transgender, non-binary, genderqueer, and two-spirit students and their teachers. Now, this is my favorite one. This is my favorite social media post of all. All the parents are just going to love this. All of this is necessary because most teachers and school administrators are typically cisgender and uphold cis supremative norms. And then cisgender parents also further complicate the lives of trans youth. Check it out. From their Instagram. Most teachers and school administrators are typically cisgender and uphold cis supremative norms. Further complicating the lives of trans youth are their cisgender parents. How many of you want your child, your 9 to 15-year-old child, going to a middle school that says further complicating the lives of trans youth are their cisgender parents? We've been these kids. We know these kids. We've taught these kids. Transformative Schools is working fiercely to counteract the existing systems of power within schools. Our aim is to provide as much support as possible to trans youth and their trans futures. Do you think these people are going to lie to parents? I think these people are going to lie to parents. Maybe that's just me. And they will embrace their full Paulo Fieri by making sure we know the educators and staff will learn with and from the students. Educators and staff will learn with and from students to deepen our collective understanding of how to support the unique needs of trans youth as we move towards creating a more joyful, just, and equitable society for all. And this post is great. You're going to see, so this is what I'm about to read, but the type is really small and it's kind of hard to read it. So this was posted by both Transformative Schools and Fernando, the Tufts University professor. So remember earlier how they said that they were going to teach kids how to trans education? They posted this in conjunction with that Tufts University professor working with them about what it means for trans education and research. To trans is a way of seeing and knowing, an epistemological position to produce new and dissident forms of knowledge. Trans studies broadly aims to contribute to material change in the conditions of trans life by identifying and dismantling the root causes of trans oppression, contributing to the development of alternative social formations. Alternative social formations. Isn't that interesting? This project research towards a world where access to life-sustaining resources does not depend on one's institutional I think that should have been legitimacy. Transing education research means subverting the history of cisgender researchers exploiting trans communities and rejecting the often seen but inherently bigoted argument that trans individuals cannot be sufficiently objective to make meaningful contributions to scientific literature. And finally, trans education research welcomes trans researchers, educators, and students in our full humanities, understands trans oppression as intersectional, situates trans oppression in all projects seeking liberation, ding, 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 and values polyvocality and centers trans experiential knowledge. So there you have it, guys. That is the trans middle school that they are fundraising for right now, literally as we speak, that they want to open. They are opening after school programs this fall. Who wants to sign your kids up for trans middle school? Let me know in the chat what you think. And again, I am the only person on the internet reporting on this. No one else has reported on this. If you see someone else reporting on this, please let me know. I would love for anyone else to report on this. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. All right, guys, if you want to support my reporting, again, head over to my Substack, which is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. It's really big right now because I was reading it. There it is. And you can sign up to fund this type of reporting at $5 a month, $50 a year. I cannot do it without you. And no one else is bringing you the stories that I'm bringing you with the amount of depth, with the amount of receipts, showing you the nuance of it, exposing things that other people aren't taking the time to look into. I can only do this when you guys provide me with the funding to be able to spend the time doing it. And I do really appreciate it. As a thank you, I do private community calls for my supporters on Mondays at 7 p.m. and on Wednesdays at noon. We do have one coming up at 7 p.m. So we are doing a call today for people who have been asking. And if you want to join us on that call, they are private, they are unrecorded. You can still have time to get access to it by signing up on the Substack and then heading over to the newsletter, the Unwoke Roundup. What you want to do is scroll all the way down to the bottom. And under this box right here, which will not be there when you have your paid supporter access, you will find the Zoom link for the call that we are doing at 7 p.m. tonight. All right, guys, we have one more story. Target is funding the training of your kids to be gender activists in school. Let me just set this up for sound because we do have some things to listen to in this one. And again, guys, I'm also pretty sure I'm the only one reporting on this. I could be wrong. A lot of people are sniffing around GLSEN. A lot of people are sniffing around the story of Target funding GLSEN for $2 million. A lot of people have been reporting on GLSEN for a really long time. I never got really that into reporting on GLSEN because a lot of other people were touching on things, but I'm pretty sure I'm the only one reporting on this aspect of it. I could be wrong. Fact check me if you find someone else, but let's take a look. In the last few days, a lot of parents have heard of GLSEN for the first time. GLSEN is a far-left progressive group that has been pushing gender ideology and woke social justice activism into schools for a long time. After the latest controversy leading to the boycott of Target, it was revealed that the chain of stores was also making an annual donations to GLSEN, donating at least $2.1 million. Dawn, did the quartering specifically show you the webinar that GLSEN held with the seniors in high school talking about how GLSEN was funding their GSAs? See, this is the thing, guys. There are people who talk about GLSEN. There are people who talk about Target. What I do is I specifically show you the receipts and the recordings that Dawn, to be quite frank, I would be shocked off my chair if the quartering showed you what I've got. Let me know if he has, but I strongly doubt the quartering showed you anything that even resembles what I've got. And this is why we don't listen to clickbait influencers on the internet, because they never bring the receipts. But correct me if I'm wrong. Now, the news articles are correct. GLSEN supports a variety of woke indoctrination in schools, from curriculum to policies hiding information from parents. But there is something that GLSEN is doing that's not getting any coverage. They are literally sponsoring the groups training your kids to be queer activists as an after-school activity. The Gender and Sexuality Alliances. And Dawn confirms, no, the quartering did not show you what I'm showing you. Not all journalism is created equal. Don't mean to pat myself on the back too much, but I knew the quartering wasn't doing this on the face of it. So the gender sexuality alliances are important, guys. If you have a child and they are in school right now, do not let them join a GSA. Keep them as far away from that GSA as humanly possible. It might seem like a good idea. It was once a good idea, but it has now become a bastardized activist organization whose only goal is to indoctrinate your child, and I'm going to prove that to you with video. A brief introduction to GSAs. I remember learning what a GSA was in the 2000s when I was watching the Showtime show Queer as Folk, which was one of my favorite shows back in the day. One of the main characters was in a GSA in his school. Back then, it was called the Gay Straight Alliance and was used as a way to combat prejudice against gay people. Things were different in the 2000s when there were legitimate policies and attitudes in the country that kept gay people in a distinct class separate from their straight counterparts. Thank you, VT Num, for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. However, after gay marriage was legalized, things changed. The fight had been won. Gay people had the same legal rights as straight people. Sure, things weren't perfect, but they were a lot better than they were. Here's the problem. Nonprofits cease to exist when problems they're fighting for are solved. So the Gay Straight Alliance, the organization that started the Gay Straight Alliance Network, the organization that started GSAs in the late 90s, changed the focus to a new problem, now moving beyond the gender binary. So in the 90s, when GSAs were started, there was a legitimate problem. Then, because society got better and gay people were accepted, gay marriage was passed, the problem was largely solved, right? And so you have this GSA network that's making money as a GSA network, and then all of a sudden, the problem that they were making money off of was solved. They didn't need to exist anymore. But this is a problem for people who have built up an entire identity around making money on this specific problem. So they were like, okay, this problem is solved, but now we need to move over here and solve this problem instead. At that time, they also changed their name from Gay Straight Alliance to Gender and Sexuality Alliance to reflect this new focus. And you can see this. This is literally on their website. And that new focus became introducing your kids to queer Marxism. Yay, congratulations. GLSEN is training your kids to be activists. One of GLSEN's top 4 priorities is to support all things GSA. It's right on their homepage in the resources section. You can see there, it's under resources. They also have it as the top 4 things GLSEN supports right down there. On their homepage, dedicated to GSAs, which have a ton of resources. I couldn't even get through all the resources these people have. But the one thing I did look at was a webinar they held in February of this year, a couple months ago, so it's really new, with a panel of students discussing the work they're doing with their GSA and how GLSEN is helping them to do it. And you guys just know, I love nothing more than when organizations put high school students on the internet. It is one of my favorite things when organizations virtue signal out to the world how just and virtuous they are by putting high school students on the internet. let me show you a few clips from the presentation to illustrate what Target's donations, $2.1 million to GLSEN, are funding, and why this is just as important as the curriculum they're funding or the policies they're funding. GLSEN is working with minor students in high school. GLSEN hires a young staff, like Program Associate Onyx, they, them, theirs pronouns, to work with students. In this presentation, Mary, she, hers pronouns, Amanda, she, her pronouns, and Ollie, they, them pronouns, are all seniors in high school and members of GLSEN's National Student Council. Let's listen.
My name is Onyx Eva. I use they, them pronouns. I am the I'm the youth programs associate at GLSEN. And I will go ahead and pass it off to Lucia.
Hi all, my name is Lucia Salazar Davidson. I'm 18 and a freshman at Moore Park College. I use they or any pronouns, and I am the Freedom Fellow for the West Region.
Thanks. Mary?
Hi, I'm Mary Lou, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm currently a senior in high school, and I'm a part of GLSEN's National Student Council.
Thank you. Amanda?
Hi, I'm Amanda. I am a high school senior. My pronouns are she, her, and I am also a member of the GLSEN National Student Council.
Awesome. Ollie?
Hi, my name is Ollie. I'm a senior from Florida. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm a represent from the Southern region in the National Student Council.
From Florida. Ollie is from Florida. From Florida, you say. But it was my understanding that Ron DeSantis had outlawed this stuff in Florida. It was my understanding that people who live in Florida, their kids were safe and protected from all this stuff. But Ollie, just a couple of months ago, is saying on the internet that Ollie is from Florida and Ollie is still doing all of this stuff in their school with the help and support of GLSEN. Let's keep going. When students join a GSA, they are not doing so to become activists. They're doing so to find a social club, students like them they can connect with. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. They're high school students. Of course, they want to connect with other students. The GLSEN Youth Programs Associate, Onyx, even admits that it was the search for a friendship that brought her to the GSA and that she wasn't looking to become an activist. Let's listen.
So our first question is, how did you initially get involved in a GSA and what made you want to join or start one? And for me, I knew that I was sort of coming out into my identity as a queer person, figuring out who I was, what labels resonated with me, and I really wanted some queer friends in my life. I wasn't interested in activism yet when I was getting involved in a GSA, but I knew that I wanted a space to find other young LGBTQ plus people. And so I decided to start a GSA at my high school because I knew that GSAs were a great place to find social networks, but my high school didn't have one at the time when I was a freshman. So the search for friendship was really what brought me to a GSA.
So the search for friendship is what brought her to the GSA, not looking to be an activist, the search for friendship. Judy asks, can you translate they or any? They or any means that they would prefer they, but really you can use any pronouns with them and they're not going to like make a stink over it. But the preference should be on they, and they is the pronoun that you use most of the time. I think it could mean something different to them. I'm not exactly sure. But I do want to address this. Baltazar says they, them equals split personality. No. That is not what it means at all. And I'm going to warn the conservatives in the chat who are saying that this is what it means, because when you guys dismiss them like this, that is when they win. Being a they, them is a political act of rebellion against the system. I've got an article going up on the Substack probably within the next day, hopefully tonight, maybe tomorrow, all about what the term queer actually means. It is an act of political rebellion. It is their introduction to Marxism. It is the first step in becoming the best trans Marxist activist they can be. And if you guys dismiss this by saying they're all just mentally ill, they'll grow out of it, you're going to lose. And it will be your own damn fault. Let's keep going. Well, I don't think he was joking. I don't think he was. And this is why conservatives are in the predicament that they're in, because they make jokes out of everything as a way of dismissing things or saying it's going to blow over without realizing what they're talking about. And then then all of a sudden it becomes a bigger problem than they had anticipated, and they wonder why, and they're caught off guard because they weren't listening in the first place, and they were making jokes. They're like, it's gonna blow over. It's just liberalism is a mental disease. No, it's not. They're winning. They're kicking our asses handily because people are making jokes. Ollie, the high school student from Florida with the they, them pronouns, when remember, this is not happening in Florida. Florida's red. Florida's safe. Ron DeSantis is saving us all. But Ollie, the high school student from Florida with the they, them pronouns, says basically the same thing as Onyx, that they went to the GSA to make friends.
Like the other people who have spoken, I definitely joined because at my middle school, we didn't have a GSA. I was essentially in all my classes the only queer person. So I wasn't anticipating any advocacy or activism at all. I just joined because I was really excited that my high school had a GSA, my middle school did not. I just wanted to make more queer friends with similar perspectives, identities, life experiences to me.
And just in case anyone thinks that Baltazar was joking, no, Baltazar was not joking. Baltazar is now saying in the chat that they don't care what all this means and they're just sticking around because Baltazar really wants to lose. They really want to lose. They want to lose badly. Baltazar wants the woke left to win. He wants to distract all conservatives and anyone being serious about this from actually fighting back by creating nonsense and saying, I don't care. It's a mental disease. This is all from the CIA. I don't even know why we're talking about this. This is why conservatives lose, guys. I just don't know how much more clear I can make it. This is quite literally why you lose. So we have the kids in the schools that are feeling awkward because they're teenagers and that's just the way it goes. And they're like, I'm going to go to the Gender Sexuality Alliance to meet other people like me and to make friends. Okay? They want to make friends. They're walking in the door looking for friends. And then once they join the GSA, the activism training starts. GLSEN provides GSAs with specific resources to help them do activism within their school. Ollie from Florida, I thought this wasn't happening in Florida. Ollie from Florida explains the types of things they do, including protesting the Don't Say Gay bill and training teachers on how to be better allies. The students are literally training the teachers. One might argue that the schools are getting around Ron DeSantis eliminating the DEI programs by having the students do the training the DEI offices were doing before, with training provided by GLSEN and their GSAs. And Baltazar is now getting blocked because he's not saying anything useful. Let's listen.
We do a little bit of everything in terms of providing a social space and advocacy. Specifically, when we have our meetings, we often do presentations on queer history and culture. Actually, this month for Black History Month, we're doing a bunch of presentations on prominent Black queer figures like Bayard Rustin, Gladys Bentley. so that, queer students can be in an affirming place, where their history, they know that their history matters and they can learn about themselves. And a lot of the advocacy work is about improving conditions specifically within the school. So we've had walkouts for the recent Don't Say Gay bills. We've done a lot of negotiating with staff in terms of helping trans students with like name changes and such, being middlemen in order to improve the reporting system so that the students who are bullying queer students are being held accountable, teacher training for teachers to be better allies, stuff like that.
Why are students in a GSA club funded by Glisten, which is funded by Target? Why are students giving teachers training on how to be good allies? Balthazar does need to read the Communist Manifesto. Absolutely. Ollie then discusses participating in direct action. The things that Ollie are describing are not necessarily bad, and I really want to emphasize this. Not everything is bad. Not everything is something that we need to get up in arms about. I'm not actually arguing that Ollie shouldn't be doing the things that they're doing as a high school student. What I am arguing is that they're using a school club that is funded by Target's money to teach children in Florida and other places too how to engage in activism. This is like the gateway drug for becoming a queer activist. Let's listen.
The next question is, how do you engage with political issues in your GSA? Do you engage in direct action, send letters, provide a healing space, or something else? And this time, let's start with Ollie.
Hi. So our main forms of engagement, a lot of it I discussed before. We also we do a lot of educational efforts. Like we've set up like booths, for example, for I think No Name Calling Week to kind of like educate the broader school public about the importance of like respectful pronoun usage, use of like posters and stuff, with a combination of direct action. So negotiating directly with higher administration, protests, as in like walkouts, etc.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
And then in the next video, we have a teacher advising a GSA named Christy, pronoun she, hers, describing helping kids to engage in political action. Again, none of what Christy is going to describe in this video is necessarily bad. I just question why kids who came to get to know each other in an after-school club to make friends are instead being put into junior activism school. Doesn't make sense to me. They wanted a social club, and instead they're being trained to be activists.
But one of a couple of specific things we've done, my GSA members wrote a proposal to our principal regarding bathrooms and trying to, I like that part about thinking about like trying to find places for all of our students to have a role, and that could look different for all of them. And so some students wanted to actually present the proposal, and then others just wanted to be researchers or writers or people just that are preparing it and working together as a group. So we have written proposals. We've gone through training on how to talk to our legislators and how to write letters or emails. And then we're actually getting ready to take a group to our state capitol so that we can actually do meetings with them and then be part of that process. So we try and kind of provide those spaces for any students who would like to join us.
Onyx, who again, Onyx is the Glisten Youth Programs Associate, asked the panelists a question about how they help GSA members get involved with fighting for queer issues. And remember, the definition of queer is that queer is a political act. Okay? Queer issues is not about fairness and justice for gay people. It's not about treating everyone equally. It's not about that at all. Queer issues is about a political act designed to destabilize the system. Mandatory Carrie, thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Well, Dixie, if it's the Democrats pushing this, then why am I showing you students in Florida who are doing it? Why am I literally showing you students in Florida talking about this, Dixie? Didn't Ron DeSantis fix this?
So our next question comes from one of our registrants, and they had asked, how do you get your GSA members involved in fighting for queer issues? Because I think a lot of times it really can be kind of intimidating to go into activism. You don't know how it's going to be perceived by other people. You don't know if you might get bullied or ostracized because of it. And so I'm curious about the ways that you create pathways to make it easier for members to be involved in fighting for these issues. So let's start with Amanda.
Like I said, people have different comfort levels. So generally, I think it would be it's good advice to just do what the group is comfortable with, but also what your community needs. So what we've done in the past, and also another thing is that members of a GSA are often really, really passionate about fighting for queer issues, but they maybe just don't know where to start. So as a GSA leadership person, your main goal should just be to figure out like what can we do with our collective power. What we've done is we've had our professional development, we got our unisex bathrooms open. It can be something, huge, it can be something really small, but as long as the students in the GSA feel like they're making change, you are making change and you're empowering young leaders to, keep it going.
Oh, Dixie. Oh, Dixie. So stupid. So naive. Dixie, if you don't think there's still those books in the libraries in Florida, you should pass whatever drugs you're taking, Dixie, share with the rest of us, because that is one of the most retarded takes I've heard on the internet all day long. Downright stupid, Dixie. You're listening to people who are lying to you. This is why conservatives will never save us, guys. I just don't know what else to say. I really just don't know what else to say. But you know what? When students engage in the activism in Florida, even though this isn't supposed to be happening in Florida, but when the students engage in activism in Florida, I've been doing this long enough where I can clearly identify people who want to learn and people who want to cause problems and be disruptive. Dixie has no desire to learn at all, and I'm going to let her in my chat a little while longer before I block her, but it's very clear to me that she has no desire to learn. She has no desire to actually engage with this in any serious way, and if she wants to try to ask serious questions, I'm happy to help her. But right now, all I'm seeing is reeing and nonsense and conservative influencer talking points that are not grounded in reality at all. But guys, do you know what? When students really do a great job at activism, GLSEN will send their GSA swag bags in order to reward them, and including Ollie talking about how GLSEN is so great, and GLSEN gives them all this swag funded by Target to reward kids for doing a good job.
We have a little prize box for when students do good. We reward them because GLSEN, who is so wonderful and kind, has given me a bunch of GLSEN merch that I get to now hand out to students. So we're all 5-year-olds here.
Yes.
So GLSEN is giving them a bunch of merch to hand out to students. Isn't that nice of GLSEN? Isn't that nice? Where are they getting the money for this merch, do you ask? Well, many organizations are funding those swag bags that GLSEN is sending the GSAs to hand out, with Target being one of them. You can see a full list of their sponsors on their websites, but here are a few of them: Hollister, Walt Disney, Target, Wells Fargo, PetSmart, Morph, Ascena, Dream It Real, Gucci, YouTube, Penn Mutual, New Balance, Amazon. This is McDonald's, State Farm, Hulu, Urban Outfitters, etc., etc., etc. You can find the full list of their sponsors on their website. So guys, that is proof. that Target is funding clubs in your kids' schools that are training them how to be the best queer Marxist activists that they could be. And you heard it right from the students who are in the clubs. Yay. Yay, 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 yay. All right, guys, that is all I have for the stream today. But I just have one quick question before we go. And I did put a poll in the chat. So we started off with independent journalist extraordinaire Christina Buttons saying, hang on, gotta get on the screen. So we started off the stream today by exploring the fact that independent journalist extraordinaire Christina Buttons has said that I am one of the most mentally unstable people that she's ever had the misfortune of interacting with, and that I'm a legitimate psychopath and I belong in an insane asylum, and that everyone knows I'm a menace, but everyone's too afraid to say it because they'll obviously be my next target. And the reason I call her independent journalist extraordinaire is that she's taking money from over 1,000 people on her Substack to report to them on gender ideology and gender medicalization of students. But it doesn't really seem like this Substack has any independent journalism at all. There is zero unique independent journalism on this website. There are opinion pieces and lists of links. So Christina Buttons is saying she is the best independent journalist and that I'm a lunatic and an insane person and belongs in an asylum, etc., etc., etc. But I today on this one stream told you the story of how Tufts is studying non-binary 3-year-olds that no one else on the internet is reporting on. I told you the story of the Groomer Middle School that is opening exclusively for trans and non-binary kids in New York City that no one else is reporting on, that is being advised by the Tufts University professor. And I told you the story of how Target is funding clubs in your kids' schools, including in Florida, training them how to be the best gender activists that they can be as a part of an after-school club. And so as we wrap up the stream today, I just have one simple question for you guys. I did put the poll in the chat on YouTube. Who's the better independent journalist? Is it me? Or is it our bestie, Christina Buttons? And it looks like 95% of you say that I'm doing a pretty good job. And I think the rest of those votes are from Bot, who is trolling the chat. But guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I will be back at 5 p.m. tomorrow for our next stream. And in the meantime, make sure you are subscribed to my Substack, Carlyn, Karlyn, .substack.com, where you can find all of my independent journalism, research that you will not find anywhere else on the internet, telling you the stories that your conservative media can only dream about telling you. Guys, I have a community call starting in about 20 minutes. I will see my supporters then. Take care. Have a great rest of your Memorial Day, and we'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m.